Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life.
We're back. We're here.
We are officially
We're officially here. We're doing it. But we're going to be really honest. We're sliding into home plate, feeling like a couple of sluggards.
We don't want this to be a theme because that's where I was at last time. I was like falling asleep on the microphone.
But you know what? I think it's also good for people to see and know that this is seasonal stuff, right? You just go through these ebbs and flows of life, and it's just part of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're having the greatest time of your life, and you're feeling like, man, I figured it all out. There's times where you don't, and you feel like you're in the trenches a bit. So I would love to open it up and just kind of share where you're at. Obviously, I'll share where I'm at with certain things. But
what's the theme today?
What we're going to talk about today, it's going to be around sacrifice. But
it's tough to put a label on it, though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit convoluted. But I think for the most part, it's going to be narrowed down to sacrifice and fear, right?
Sacrifice, fear.
And the fear of sacrifice, really.
Values.
Yeah.
It's going to be wrapped up in there.
Yep.
Priorities.
And really, we're working through independently. We're working through moving through stuckness, right? We get to this point of stuckness. And I was actually going to bring up, we had a good discussion before this, just checking in and seeing where each other were at. But if you look at the graph of change, have you ever seen that before, where you get to the pit of despair?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that graph?
Yep.
All of us start, when we think of a new idea or we have this newfound vision, we start with uninformed optimism.
Yeah.
Right? We have this like, this is going to work. I'm going to crush it. Can you imagine what my life is going to look like?
Yeah.
But as time goes on and you start to consider and you start to do research, you drop into a point of informed pessimism, right? You get to the point where you're like,
I got more details now, and this isn't as rosy as I thought it was.
Right. And I'd say more people than not get to that point when they're already kind of in it, right? And they're like, oh, shoot, this is not what I thought it was. That actually happens to a lot of realtors. People get into real estate. I'm going to earn an easy buck. This is simple stuff.
I know so many people.
Yeah. And then they realize, oh, this is also lead generation and hard, and I have to continue building my business every single day. It's not for everybody. But then you get into the pit of despair, right? You get to that point of like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is way different than I thought. But don't give up. And I say that to you as well because I believe in you. Obviously, I know you can do anything you put your mind to. But when your heart and mind are aligned, you start to get to informed optimism. You get to a point where you're like, okay, all right, the money is working. The numbers are working. And now it's making more sense. But unfortunately, I truly believe it's impossible to get there until you go through the others.
Yeah, that's good. It's so true, too.
Yeah.
Any project that you start, I mean, it could be as simple as like a home renovation project, right?
Totally.
I'm going to renovate my bathroom. I can totally do this. I see it done on Instagram all the time. They watch all the HGTV shows. Then you start digging into it, and you're like, this is...
Yeah, then you break a pipe, and now your bathroom's flooded, and now you're up to your elbows literally in poop. And you know what I mean? You're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's normal. It's part of it, you know? It's
Yeah.
just part of the process. But where are you at? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, so gosh, how do I characterize this while being real without providing extreme detail, right? That's kind of the balance that I try and strike here. We have some opportunities that are in front of us. Potentially shifting some directions that we're pursuing professionally. And I've been really excited about it. Lots of promise and just kind of a refreshed, like, new project. Like some new opportunities, new project, new pursuit, new upsides, new downsides.
Right.
And
a lot to consider.
And it's been full of a lot of the grass is greener. Been romantic about it. That's probably the best way to put it. Like, been romantic about, like, it could be this and we're going to do that. And it has to start there.
You have to have that.
Like, if you can't start there, then you probably shouldn't go forward.
No.
And as I have, I had a mastermind this last week. And, I was talking them through, here's where I'm going, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm hoping is going to work. And it wasn't even so much feedback from them, like, have you thought about this, this, and this? It was like, as I started going through this, it just kind of, the realism of what that price was going to look like was a bit sobering. It was like, oh, I mean, I knew that these were, and downsides is the wrong word, but I knew this was going to be a cost to follow this pursuit.
What is that cost? Like, what have you considered in terms of like, man, this is adding up? What are those costs?
Well, there's a few layers. One, family impact. Okay,
it's big.
It could involve needing to relocate my family. Maybe not permanently, but
right.
Certainly temporarily. And I have 3 kids that are at an easier age to relocate right now. None of them are in high school. But that doesn't last forever.
No, yeah.
So relocating them, pulling my wife and I, for that matter, away from our community here.
Which is rich. It's a rich community.
Really
Not
is.
Well, people do well, but I'm just saying, I mean, rich in love and support.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like
so wealthy.
Yeah, we live in just a super. No, people are wonderful here. They really are.
Yeah. Economics are things are going to have to change. There's some unknown on the current longevity of our income streams right now, in the face of some unknown economic factors and some known economic factors that make it go, well, this business might not, meaning my current one, might not look the same in 6 months.
Sure.
And what's the consequence of that? If I choose to bite the bullet and make this move, and things do shift like I think they potentially could in as short as a 6 month window.
Yeah.
Like, what does that do for our family's economic position as we're trying to pursue a new project? Because new projects, doesn't matter whether it's, you're starting a hot dog stand or you're going into real estate development, like, there is an economic cost to doing it. And the bigger the project, the bigger the cost.
Right. Or risk.
Or risk. But, absolutely risk. But it's, it comes with an element of sacrifice of mm-hmm. today's comfort for tomorrow's hope.
Ooh, interesting. That's write that one down.
Just came up with that one on the fly. Sacrifice today's comfort for tomorrow's hope. And
wow, talk about uncertainty. That's a true uncertain statement. But man, there's a lot of comfort in that statement too. I don't know why. Well, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know I'm guilty of it. I think Americans in general are guilty of it. We value comfort highly.
And convenience. And what's the other word I'm looking for? But convenience is probably a good word. But everything is about
comfort,
easy.
Certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought of putting ourselves willingly into discomfort creates hesitation for me as well for everybody else. It's like, am I willing to I recognize that growth doesn't come without discomfort. Typically, maybe that's universally, but am I willing to get that uncomfortable? Like, where's my threshold of discomfort in relation to the upside?
Right.
And so that's what I find myself kind of, sounds like a big word, wallowing in, kind of just wrestling with, like, okay, I'm becoming sober to the fact of what the price is going to be. It's a much bigger game. So it's going to take a much bigger price.
Mm-hmm.
And am I really wanting to play that game?
Is it more fear of sacrifice in the event things don't work out the way you expect? Or, in other words, is sacrifice not a big deal if you know the outcome is going to be in your favor? You know what I mean? You're like, well, I know I'm about to achieve what I've set out to achieve, so who cares? We'll do it. But when you don't actually know how that's going to work out and you've put your family through this, there's an element of like, what are we doing this for, right?
I don't know if you've heard it before. It's been said, like, how big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Someone also said, if people don't laugh at you when you share your dreams aren't big enough.
Yeah. So it's like, I look at the project in front of us, and sorry to be a little cheeky is the wrong word, but just cryptic about it all. There's just a lot of moving pieces right now, and I just can't quite go into all of it. So I'm doing my best to talk about it without talking about it.
Thank you for being authentic. I appreciate you I bubble up, and I try to be bubbly all the time, even if I'm going through hard stuff. You're being real. You're being authentic, going like, I'm feeling flat by this. This is not easy to process, but it's so good for people to see this, right? I love the moment someone connects and relates and goes, I feel that way too sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the hope here, right?
Yeah. I know, looking at this project, it's not a matter of if I can make it work. So it's not gosh, if this fails, what does it mean? Because even at a worst case scenario, I'm totally off base. I am knee deep in rose-colored glasses, and I was wrong. My worst case scenario is somebody else's dream. I've got huge community. I have lots of connections. I have a massive network. I have lots of opportunity. Blessed beyond measure. I am in a good spot. Like, even if things fail entirely.
Your whole energy lifted when you started saying all those things, by the way.
It's true. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of like, man, I'm facing potential despair economically and relationally. It is a matter of like, how long will it take to work? And to what extent is that inconvenience, discomfort, pain, sacrifice, just the of trying to get something going, how long is that going to last? It's the expectation that I'm trying to set on myself of like, what's realistic here, so that I can go into it and go, gosh, even if I'm totally wrong, I know I can make this work in 3 years. Okay, can I handle 3 years of like muddy, yucky grind? Am I willing to do that? I've arrived at a place in life where it's like, am I willing to do that? And it's an odd, it feels a little selfish. It feels a little like, oh man, but I don't know.
It's a midpoint view too, right? Like, you get to a midpoint in your life and you're like, well, what am I willing to say yes to now?
Yeah.
Right? What are those things now? And those things change. And it's interesting that we change as seasons change, yet we fight ourselves about it. Like, we act like, no, that's not who I am. Yeah, it is. It's who you've become. And so it's kind of part of how we have to see things now, right? We have to see things through a totally different lens. In fact, I read a quote a while ago, said, failure is very painful, but so is success. So, and I love that, because I guess my response to that is, not who cares. That's not the right, but
it's going to hurt either way.
It's going to hurt either way.
Yeah.
Whether you, and I got to tell you, for me personally, not pursuing something that I know will be fulfilling for me, like coaching we've talked about.
Yeah.
If I don't do this, it's going to eat away at me and become more toxic and more of an issue in my life than pursuing it in the first place and failing at it, or maybe bumping into it and go, this isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah. It's kind of the question, what are you going to regret more? Looking back on it and going, man, I tried and I blew it.
Right.
And failed miserably. Or, God, I wonder what I could have done.
Right. Contentment is the enemy of progress, but it's up to you to decide what that means and how to define that. And then the next thing too is, the question I have for you is the fear rooted more in the result or the effort? Because at the end of the day, we're going to be judged by our effort, not necessarily the result, meaning our spouses, right? We talked earlier, we didn't mention this yet on the podcast, but we talked about buy-in, right? And that you have to believe it's good work to do it, but so does your spouse.
Yeah.
So does your life partner, right? You can't pursue anything if they're not like, go, do it, run, I love this. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to get going if you don't get that kind of validation.
I see people do it. It's much harder.
It is.
And there are spouses that you have to win over before they'll jump on your team.
Right.
So that's not exclusive. Like, if you don't have your spouse's buy-in, like, don't move forward. For me, yes, because I have built that track record with Holly we have this trust. Like if she was standing and I trust her intuition and what she's seen and what she's lived through. So if she was standing going, I'm not on board with this, I would totally pull the e-brake.
Yeah.
That's not everybody's situation though.
Right.
And so I don't want to just blanketly say, if you don't have your spouse's buy-in, like, don't go forward.
Sure.
Because that's not how everybody operates.
Because they could be holding you back. The only thing holding you back from doing what could be really amazing, impactful work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And simply because maybe their ego's in the way or something. You never know. But, yeah, for your specific situation, your spouse needs to be on board. So there's an extra sense of buy-in. There's an extra sense of validation that's beyond your internal one. Do you think sitting down with her and having that conversation would be helpful, or do you feel it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be ongoing conversations. You know, I was driving back from the Seattle airport last night. It's a 2.5-hour drive for us, and I was just on the phone, you know, just chatting. The kids were down for bed, and she's like, "How was your week?" So I was talking through all the different presentations and conversations and all the things, and I was like, "Here's where I'm at with all this," and like, there's no resolution from that conversation, but coming out of that, it's like, look, we need to be really clear on what our filters need to be. You meaning, you know, what's your process of this purpose, right? How are you going to look at this situation? What values are you going to attach to it? What weight are you going to put on those values for this particular decision? And make the best decision you can with incomplete information, because you're not going to have all the details. And so, yes, it's a conversation last night for 1.5 hours, but it's going to be a conversation multiple times.
What was your view of sacrifice in your 20s? Like when you thought about it or had these moments of like when you started Degree 33 in the surfboard, did you just do it and say, I see a lane, I'm going? Or was it, no, I'm wired this way, and it really took me a while to get that in motion too. Did you view sacrifice differently as a younger man?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did because there's not as much at stake, and there's more time for mistakes.
And do-overs.
Yeah. You know, when you're in your 20s, you go, gosh, you know, I'm young. I can fail 400 times and still come out ahead. And, you know, you've got, you know, you don't have, it's just, in that particular case, it was just Holly and I. It was just me and my spouse. And so there's not kids, and there's not deep roots that, you know, in a community, and you're just creating on the fly. And as you get yourself established in life and have kids and build community and put down roots, and there's more to consider.
In a way, your work is defining you, right? And so whatever you're pursuing, if it's not good work and you're not willing to let it define you, then it's going to be hard to continue to pursue. Because in your 20s, that's all it is, right? As I think Ralph Waldo Emerson said, your life starts at 40. Up until then, you're just doing research.
Sure.
Which I think I'm going to love when I'm 50, but not when I'm 39. So I'm like, what have I been doing this whole time?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there's some truth to that, right? You're defining yourself. You're learning who you are. You're understanding how the world works. And when you get to this place, you go, now that I know all that. In fact, there was another quote by Ernest Hemingway. He said, happiness in highly intelligent people is the rarest thing I know.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you find out, the more you start to build boundaries and walls and things up, because you want to protect yourself against those potential downfalls, right?
Yeah.
Or hardships and things like that. And so anyway.
Yeah. And being, you know, I turned 44 this year. Jeez, I turned 44 this year.
There was a moment there. Everyone's going to key in on that moment that just happened. 44.
Yeah. You know, and in some respects, making this move for me and my family is hitting the reboot button. And it's like, am I really going to just be like, all right, let's blow this all up and start over? And
but is it blowing it up?
No,
right?
that's an extreme statement.
Sure.
But it is going, we're shelving every direction we were going. We're not blowing it up. We are 100% putting it on the back burner and maybe even pulling it entirely off the heat.
Do you feel relief when you think about that, or does it feel like, no, that feels like...
Creates angst.
Sure.
Not relief.
And angst comes from uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not relief. But the thought of continuing down the path that I'm on is ick.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the ick, right?
Right.
Like, this doesn't feel good. Like,
yeah.
So I fully recognize that on some level, I'm sure some people are like, listening and being like, sounds like a midlife crisis. Well, yeah, kind of, right?
And everyone goes through that at different times, by the way. Some of you are going to do that in your 30s. Some of you are going to do that in your 50s, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything that I've done has got me to this point, and I'm super grateful. And yet the iteration or where this plays out on my current path, I don't love. And so it's like, okay, I might have to roll this back and take a few steps backwards to recalibrate. And no one likes going backwards.
What is your identity rooted in? That's a big question. And sorry to put you in a vulnerable space. I'll answer that question as well. But what is it?
What is my... Sorry to leave so much blank air here, but
it's a big question. That's not an easy question to drop on somebody. It's like, geez, dude, you're making me dig. But it might be relevant.
Yeah. So there's an aspect of this that my identity, okay, there's an intellectual response that I know I'm supposed to say. There is a response that I don't know how much truth is in, right? And so there's a few layers here for me as you ask that, first and foremost, I believe I'm a child of God. And what feels disingenuous about that statement is that I'm not even fully sure I understand what that means. I feel like I'm supposed to say that. And I believe that. And yet there's an element of like, okay, what does that mean? And so, but my spiritual life, my soul is a foundational point of my identity. My identity is also rooted in my family, my spouse, my kids. My identity on some level is rooted in my community and where we're at and what we get to experience and go and do. But my identity, and I wouldn't say equally because I don't know how to weight these things, is in what I create.
Mm-hmm. Like procreation, an extension of you.
Yeah, like what am I contributing to this world, to this society, to this era, to this moment in the next iteration of history books? Like what am I bringing forward of value to the world?
What is that?
I'm not sure I know how to answer it.
That's fair. That's okay. Sometimes you don't have an answer, and sometimes it's like, all right, that's going to take some reflection.
Yeah.
And that's all right.
Yeah, it's when I think of like my identity in that, I go, I want there to be contribution. What is that contribution? I don't know how to define that yet. I look at the projects I've worked on, the things I've built, and it's a microcosm of impact of zero significance in anything huge. And not that I need to, for ego, have impact in history book level stuff, but just trying to put a check on there of like how much impact is actually being made.
Sure. Maybe directly to those people, but you could also reframe it to go, well, I'm going through that to be able to communicate here and helping others run a business, sell a business, manage a business, all those things. Like It's all super helpful and relevant and valuable.
Well, and that contribution may not be seen.
Sure.
Or may not be realized is probably a better way to say that till I'm 80.
Sure.
Right? I may not be able to truly answer that contribution until I'm in the waning years of my life looking backwards and going, gosh.
Yeah.
I did a whole lot more than I thought I was doing in the moment, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Vincent van Gogh sold one painting during his lifetime. Do you know that?
No, I had no idea.
He sold one. All of his paintings sold for wild amounts of money after he died. And that's depressing. It's like, oh man, I'm never going to be recognized until. But the point is legends aren't, right? Legends, if that's what your aim is. But I hear you saying, like, I want to achieve these things for people now. Like, I want to do this with people now. And also the other side of it too is like, these realizations might not come until later.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to accept that because it's like, I'm almost 44. Can these happen now? But God might be aligning you for a launch point at 47. Don't know.
100%. There's an element of the unknown road ahead that none of us can truly know. Like, what are we working on? What's the ends here? What is this project building to the next project? I always knew when I started Cascade that it was going to be a stepping stone.
Sure.
Like, I never thought it was the end game.
Right.
So there's going to be projects that's like, this is a bridge.
Yeah.
And there's projects that you look at and go, this could be the thing.
Yeah.
But even in those lenses of this could be the thing, we don't know that.
Right.
It's like, no, this could just easily be the bridge to something. I was going to say bigger, but it doesn't have to be bigger, something different. So
I just thought of a question, and I'm asking myself this question too, and I want you to answer first is, what do you want your money to achieve?
What do I want my money to achieve? I want my money to work for me. I want my money to achieve impact, like good, I was gonna say good result, but like, to help others. I want my money to achieve blessings for my family, opportunities, experiences, adventures, a legacy benefit for those that follow behind me, for my kids, for their kids.
Kind of a Rockefeller philosophy.
Yeah. So yeah, off the cuff, that's the things that pop into my head.
Those are all wonderful things.
Yeah.
For me, of course, impact, I want my dollar to have a multiplier effect on everybody, right? Meaning I don't want it just to feed one family. I want that family to be stronger so they can go serve another family and serve another family to get people in better positions. But honestly, it's going to be a weird answer, but I want my money to gain access. And what I mean by access is social access, because I know that if you can gain access, you can create influence, and I want to positively influence the world. And I don't know if that's fully possible unless your money can gain access for you.
Totally makes sense.
Right? Money creates equality. I know that sounds weird and backwards, but it does. If you have enough money, you become equal very quickly. Mm-hmm. You see it in lottery winners. All of a sudden, lottery winners, they've done nothing for it, and yet they're hanging out with new people very quickly.
Yeah.
Right? What do they say? The more money you have, the more relatives you have?
Sure. Yeah.
But truthfully, I do, and I don't say that in a
Well, it's different circles, right?
Yeah.
You get access. Access is a good word. You get access to different circles, different levels of influence, because those people that run in bigger circles, it's not so much that they look at you different, like you've done what I've done, but they know that you're not after them for their money.
I just read another quote that said, a true measure of someone's character is how he treats people that cannot benefit him.
Yep.
Isn't that good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How you treat people that can do nothing for you is the true measure of your character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
And access and privilege, if you want to look at it that way, it really requires more of you. You have more responsibility when that happens, right? To truly treat others with genuine care. Otherwise, in fact, I don't think money corrupts people. I think money attracts corruptible people, right? And that can happen to just about any of us, right? And so we have to be very, very conscious of that. Thanks for answering that question. That's a hard one to answer because it can frame you into a very money hungry sounding person. But hearing your answer just reminds me that we are inherently, and there's people out there that aren't, but we inherently want to make a difference. We want to do well by people, right? That's there. Mistakes aside, that's truly who we want to be. And so I believe if that's who you are and who you want to be, you'll become more of that person as you gain more money. Dave Ramsey said that, and I think he's right. Yeah. I think he's right. Yeah. I want to throw this question at you again. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but we talk about sacrifice. We talk about the fear of sacrifice of, man, what does this mean for my family? Do I really want, I'm in that informed pessimism stage. And I'm like, do I really want to do any of this? What is the actual loss? Yeah. What are we, when we step into this new venture and we're like, we're sacrificing everything around us. What is it specifically that we're losing?
Certainty.
Time, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of the unknown that creates discomfort. Right. So we're losing, as lame as this sounds, we lose our comfort. We lose the security of knowing what today brings, but we gain the hope of what it could turn into. Yeah. Right. So there's two sides to that coin, but I think what keeps most people from taking action, and to be fair, what has created fear and even hesitancy in me on this is that it's a big game and it's going to require more sacrifice, which means that there's going to be more given up of what I know to be true today. And that is, a predictable workload, a predictable headspace, a predictable stress amount, a certain level of economic luxury that affords you to take vacations or live a certain way. You're giving up. You're not necessarily giving those things up. You're giving up the certainty of those things. Okay. And so you go into this area of like, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know how painful this is going to get. I don't know what's going to happen to our bank account. I don't know what's going to go with my stress level. I don't know how hard this is going to be. And all of those things are true, regardless of whether you're looking down the barrel of a new project or you're trying to decide what college you're going to go to or what job you're going to take, or are you going to transition to a new career field? Like, it's not unique to me. Sure. But it is, we crave comfort. Yeah. And we crave certainty. Yeah. And giving those things up, none of us should value comfort over growth. But we do. And we practice it daily. Again, process saves us from the poverty of our intentions. Have something around you habitually, something that helps you easily step into that, because even though you intend to on a regular basis, we don't. Yeah. We're human beings. We falter. We come up with procrastination, whatever reason not to do that thing. That's normal. Yeah. And you've got to find ways to support yourself through it. Yeah. Let me ask you this question. If you were to just frame an avatar of the person that could handle all of that well, what does that avatar look like? Who is that person? Oh, Gavin. These are the moments where I wish we had a little bit more bullet points than what we were going to ask each other, because I get lost sometimes. But I think the thing that pops into my head first as like, this is going to have to be a component of this, of someone that can handle this with grace, is someone that has proven to themselves that they can do it. Shut up.
Sounds like someone I know. No, but this is really good. This is really good to talk through these things. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're realizing is you're going to start describing yourself. As someone who knows how to run a business. Someone who is steady Eddie emotionally. So, and I think you have what it takes. I think the blocker is always asking the question to ourselves: are we enough? And we are.
Yeah, yeah, and it isn't a matter of can I accomplish this.
Yeah.
There's not a doubt for me.
It's a willingness.
It's a willingness. It's am I willing to make myself and my family go through the air quotes pain of a massive professional pivot?
Is there any way to ensure certainty if you go any other direction?
No.
Yeah. Or if you even stay in the direction you're in, there's still...
I think that there's not certainty. I think there's probably maybe more certainty.
Right.
But if you're going to err on the side of more certainty to stay the course or stay in your lane and do what you know, there also comes with that an emotional toll of like,
sure.
But is that how I internally want to live every day? Like, I'm not feeling fulfilled in what I'm doing. It doesn't give me energy. We talked about last time about following the energy. Didn't we? Didn't we talk about that? Following the energy?
We talked about it independently from recording, but you did bring it up to me. Rob Dyrdek, right?
Rob Dyrdek, yeah. I'll repeat it here again, but Rob Dyrdek was, I found a little clip that he had created on following energy, and that there are going to be things in life that give us energy. Like you walk into a room, you have a conversation, you have a relationship, you have an idea, you pursue a project that you're like juiced to be a part of. And there's going to be things in life in all those categories as well that when you interact with it, you're like, this is suffocating. This is draining. This is exhausting. This is not giving me energy.
Right.
And if we can become aware of what those things are on a day-to-day basis and move our life towards the things that give us energy, we live a more energy-filled, positive, and, theoretically happy life. And so staying in the lane is the reason why I went here. I don't think gives me the energy that I want to have, that I want to live in life. And so while there may be more certainty of less pain, and there's not even certainty of that, but I will just say an iteration more.
At least what you perceive.
Right. It comes with less energy. And that is not the way I want to live either. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that the last couple of years we've talked through it, right? A little bit of stuckness with kind of where I want to go.
Totally.
Is it possible that some of this could be rooted in just simply not wanting to stay there? Just like, I want out of that. Yeah. I want out of that stuckness. That's all I care about, right? I want to launch from that shit.
Yeah. I think that, you have said your highest priority is freedom. I have echoed that to some degree, but I would say another priority for me that is right up there is growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel the most energy when I know that I am taking ground.
Is there any like specific measures that that tell you I am taking ground? Like, obviously watching your bank account grow, sure, that's an easy one. But I mean, like, are there other like small things throughout the day where like, yep, we made movement here. Yep, we made movement here. In real estate, it's hard. I mean, unless you penned a sale and you close a sale, it's hard to know. Did that $5,000 marketing effort go anywhere? I don't know. I hope. You know.
I think that there's indicators along the way, all the way, whether it's a marketing campaign that you have to look at it in terms of returns.
Sure.
Okay. What are the returns that you can have in life? Well, you can have a time return, you can have a money return, or you can have an energy return. Those are really the three returns that you can have. And so anytime you're putting forward some sort of effort, what is the return? And the return usually equates to some level of growth.
Right.
Okay. So I got more energy from this. I got more time from this, or I got more money from this.
Right.
Like, and if those things are happening with the efforts that you put forward, you're gaining ground.
Have you ever made easy money? I don't say that in terms of like simple, but I mean in terms of it just felt too easy. Like someone paid me for that? Like if I like give you an example, I haven't done it yet, but if someone were to hire me for public speaking and then wrote me a check afterward, I'd feel like I cheated somebody. You know what I mean? I feel like, what? You get paid for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel really good right now, and I feel like I'm on a high, and you just wrote me a check.
Yeah.
It feels like, ooh, that's too easy. What? But I think that's the lane, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it should be.
Yeah, I have, and I think that's what's got me where I'm headed.
Yeah.
Is that I got a little taste of some. You're right. Easy is the wrong word.
Right.
But money that gave you energy.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't feel as sloggy.
Why does making money, why does it, the value of it somehow make more sense when it's hard? Like I work hard for that money. I get it. I get why people say that and why we do that, but shouldn't we be going the opposite direction? Like, shouldn't we be like finding ways like, oh shit, this is so easy. This is so fun.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's trying to tell us. Do that.
There's an acronym, ELF.
Let's hear it. I don't know it.
Easy, lucrative, fun. And if you can find lanes where it's easy, lucrative, and fun, you win.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's what Rob Dyrdek has figured out.
Yeah.
He's figured out ELF.
Yeah.
For sure. I want to do that. I'm getting pretty excited thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, my feelings are, I'm so grateful not only for your wisdom, your mentorship, and your friendship, but your vulnerability and your willingness to just sit here and go, I'm not feeling it today. And quite honestly, recording doesn't seem like it makes sense, but it so does, right? Because for this podcast or this effort, for me anyway, relatability is the key, right? It really is.
I mean, everybody is going to go through similarities of seasons.
Yep.
Right. And while I was like, I don't really want to record today, or maybe I was 50-50, but I was like, I don't know, this is what's going on, and I don't even know, like, even though we're, I don't know, what does that clock say? We're 33 minutes in, 43 minutes in. It's like, I don't even really know what I said. Like it
yeah.
My ability to articulate my internal experience right now is very foggy.
Yeah.
And so it's helpful to have to try and talk through it and articulate it when you're forced to put words to it.
Yeah.
It creates clarity. But even looking back, I'm like, what did we just talk? Like, is that helpful to anybody? Like, what are we even talking about?
2 episodes, you said 2 episodes ago, or 3, you said how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
Like how quickly you can feel this way, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call. Hey, do you want this opportunity? And you're like, what? How'd that happen? It goes to show you that, we're not conditioned by our conditioning, right? Even we have been through it over and over. We've gone through rounds of these things. They're going to happen again.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's part of the human condition in a way.
Yeah. So far in this whole talk, it's been focused on me. You've gone through lots of iteration. I'm going to chase this project. I'm not going to chase this project.
Sure.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do real estate. Nope, I'm out. I'm done with real estate.
Switch back.
Never doing it again. Nope, I'm back in. Like, so how do you view all of this? We talked about, identity. We talked about, values. We talked about sacrifice. Like, what's your lens for all of this?
Yeah, great question. So, one is I've learned enough about myself throughout these processes to know that I'm a starter. I'm a guy that loves to start things. I'm learning over time, it's taken a while, that if I'm going to manage or maintain anything in my life, I need others around me to do that. I'm just not a person that wants to do those things. So when you see me shift, start, and stop, it's because that's who I am and how I'm wired to be. I'm learning how to be a more efficient player in all of that and finding ways to actually put things in motion and keep it in motion. And for me in real estate, we've talked about it before, but it's all about the model. The model find the model that you're excited about and makes sense for your lifestyle. You may not figure out what that model is until you go through a model you don't love, like I did. But it helps redefine things in a much more clear way as you do it and go through it and stumble through it, sometimes fall on your face maybe. Unfortunately, it's hard to learn without going through it. It really is. And so, you know, in terms of my values and what I'm after, honestly, I'm getting really excited about this coaching thing. After the last episode, we talked about validation. I went out immediately and put up a post on Facebook, really asking for my sphere to validate the idea for me that coaching would be a good pursuit. And it was overwhelming to get the response I got. Super grateful for all the people in my life that shared those words of serious motivation and inspiration for me to get started. So for me, I'm kind of in that lane right now where I'm starting to feel like coaching might be too easy. You know what I mean? Not in terms of like, I know it's going to take my time, it's going to take effort and all that, but the actual, it's weird. Like if I make money too easy, I feel like I've cheated somebody, and I don't want to feel that way. That's crazy. That's like an imposter syndrome situation. But I'd say that's kind of where my fear is now, is not wanting to be an imposter. I even said it in the Facebook post. The last thing I want to do is come across that I have it all figured out. I don't. But in a very short amount of time, I learned that that's not what coaching is. Coaching's not inserting your beliefs and advice and ideas on other people. It's helping people draw out their own inspiration and self-discovery, and basically becoming a master in questions, right? Asking incredible questions to draw that out of people, and being really good about letting silence do all the heavy lifting, right? We always think that we got to jump in to fill the gap, and we don't. Allow people to process, and sometimes that takes time. So my fear right now is I just don't want to be an imposter. I don't want people thinking I'm something I'm not. I always want to come across as authentic and genuine, because I obviously appreciate that in others. Nothing worse than when you come across a poser or somebody that you know that's not being genuine or disingenuous. It drives me crazy. So that's what I always effort to be. My value is in freedom, but my value is also in authenticity, in being who I truly am and expressing myself in the best way possible. And I'm hopeful that I can do that through coaching. Ultimately, if I'm being honest, I really want to get into public speaking, but I also feel that could come across as presumptuous, right? That here I am, I'm going to tell you how to motivate and get up and get going. But I think, again, if you share your story, your struggles and your triumphs, and tell people and help people understand what worked for you, not just tell them what you think could work for them, but what actually has worked for you in changing your life. For me, I'm centered on positive affirmations, right? I know that totally transformed my life when I was in the mission. It changed everything about the way I looked at the world, the way I looked at myself. So that's what I'm going to be using in my coaching. Why would I not?
Yeah.
It's worked for me. But I've also learned recently too that being at the highest intellectual capacity you can be at has a lot less to do with being more positive, has more to do with being less negative. Interesting, isn't it? So again, going back to what I said before, I'm grateful that I've taken some of these personality assessments. The last one I took was the energy leadership assessment, learning that my highest energy is when my relationships are based on relationships and not the outcome of the relationship. And that's honestly, if I'm really looking back at my real estate career transactionally, it was impossible not to look at a relationship without an outcome.
Yeah.
I absolutely needed that relationship to give me an outcome. Otherwise I don't feed my kids, and that ate away at me. I realized that actually is the opposite of my high energy. Started sucking everything out of me. I felt like I was using people to some degree, which is not true. Right. We know that helping people buy and sell homes is helping them create wealth building vehicles for the rest of their life and their families. But it just started to feel that way. And for me internally, if it does, I can't convince myself out of it. I have to follow the energy. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to surrender to the energy. If we're going to surrender to anything, we've talked about outcome and surrendering the result. I want to surrender my energy and follow where I'm supposed to go, regardless of all the feedback and the rhetoric and everything else that comes with it. You've inspired me today. I need to follow energy and not worry about what other people think.
Well, I'll drink to that.
Dude, I'm so inspired by you. I'm so proud of you as a friend, as
Thank
a brother. Just going through this journey together. I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all hope that we have these giant breakthroughs, right? Like, boom, I'm out of this slog and I'm doing it. But I'm wondering if true breakthroughs are small and consistent.
Yeah. I don't think we really have to wonder. Like, I think there's huge breakthroughs for people.
Yeah.
Where they go from addicted to not.
Right.
Okay. But even that happens through micro decisions.
Yeah.
Even that happens through little tiny breakthroughs.
Right.
I made it today.
Right.
Right. So I think it took me 5 years to become an overnight success. Like, I think it just, it's little growth moments.
Yeah.
It's little growth moments. And yeah, maybe there's big breakthroughs, but those big breakthroughs don't happen without the body of work that preceded it.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
I don't know what else we say. I don't even know what I said.
And you know what? That's okay, because a lot of times people don't even know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Or feeling, for that matter.
Yeah.
And just being able to resonate or relate to something, even if it's small or maybe even another day feels insignificant, right now in this moment, it might feel significant and it might feel important. And if we helped you in that regard, then we're doing what we set out to do.
Can I make a selfish ask?
Sure.
If you're listening to this and my rambling helped you in some way, I would love to know that, because sometimes I feel like I jump on here and I have no idea where I'm going with the conversation in life. But really, like, sometimes I have a really clear path of, like, I have thoughts around this. This is going to be a fun topic. I feel like I can contribute, or have some experience. And sometimes I just feel like drowning is a big word, but I'm barely staying afloat.
Sure.
In the conversation.
You're just talking through fog.
Yeah. And it's if it's helpful, I'd love to know that.
If it's relatable, I'd love to know that.
Yeah.
Because my guess is it is.
Yeah.
That's a fair ask. I appreciate you asking that. And of course we always want to effort to do what we feel is helpful to you guys. So always give us feedback. Let us know what you feel like you'd love us to talk about or touch on, or maybe part of our story and would like to learn more, and we can expand on that a little bit more. But anyway, being raw, being vulnerable, being real is the point of all of this.
It is.
Scripted is not what we set out to do. So I'm not surprised you feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, we follow no bullet points.
No.
And rarely do we even have a topic more than 6.5 minutes before we push play, before we push record.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of, and for me, like I've said before, like, really what I want to be able to do is create an archive that my kids' kids can come back and go, God, Dad was feeling that way too. Grandpa was feeling that way too.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't think that the way I'm trying to process this moment in my life is unique in any way. And so, I just want them to know, and our listeners for that matter, but that's okay. It's a part of the process.
We are not absolved from the same life circumstances. We all bump up against it at some point. And that's why I think it's really important, to talk through it, and whether or not you feel foggy and you feel like it's unclear, literally just putting words out to how it all feels and seems, whether or not it in the moment feels like it solves anything, it really is doing wonders. It is allowing you to start fulfilling something you probably didn't even know was there. I'm excited for you. I think wherever this is going, I think we talked about it last time, I believe that we're stepping in to a really successful season.
Good things are ahead.
I do believe that.
Yep.
I really do. So,
Yep.
And I believe that for you guys too.
Yep.
I do. Cool.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Love you.
We're out.
We said it at the same time this time.
Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few gold nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.